Hi, I'm Dale from Bunani Pipes. This video is on drone reeds. It's further to other videos that I've done. We started a project a little while ago. We were trying to find out why pipers couldn't set up their pipes, mainly to do with pressure and tone, but a lot of it was pressure and control. And we found that the problem was with the drones, and the people were unable to select the correct reeds for the drone sets they had. Now, drone sets come in a lot of variations. We've got large bore, we've got small bore, we've got long bore drones, we've got short bore drones, and various things in between. Some have fundamental pitch. Most of the older drones are fundamental pitches around 466 B flat. So, trying to find drones that will run a drone that's designed to run a B flat up at the 480 plus pitch that somebody's doing. It became challenging for a lot of people, and we found that a lot of people's control was based on their lack of control was based on the fact that they had the wrong drones for what they were trying to do and for the drone sets they were playing. Now, when we started doing drone-only setups with their pipers, we found that the majority of the pipers that were asking for softer chanter reeds, for example, we found that the problem was actually in the drone reeds, not the chanter reed. Once their drone reeds were set up to their comfort level, we found that they were quite able to then play the reed that they were playing. It was just a matter of getting the setup right. So basically the concept of it was that we found that by using the cane concepts, but just obviously with a modern material, the modern type of reed, we wanted to see if that would go, because some of the concepts on cane reed worked very well, and the drones themselves were essentially designed to run with cane reeds. They weren't designed to run with these new large carbon reeds and a lot of these other reeds that you get now. So initially we found that it worked pretty well. We got low air demand, which was good. We got fairly tolerant to pressure. In other words, you had quite a good pressure range with very little pitch variation within your playing range. We found the startups were good, and we found that the cut-offs were pretty good as well. So we sort of got covered most of that. But the one thing that we were criticised for was, and this is a fairly common theme in the piping world, is that the judges and some pipers complained that the bass reeds were too quiet. They didn't stand out when the tenors were being played. They just couldn't. They felt that it was not good, a bit insipid. So my reed setter, who I'm teamed up with, he's a ex-grade 1 piper and exceptionally steady player, exceptionally steady piper, and pretty good ear considering his age. He's very good ear, and he came up with this idea of doing multiple blades on the bass reed. Now I've got to admit, I didn't think it would work. I thought it was I just couldn't see how it could work. But anyway, he was pretty pushy about the whole thing. So I machined up some bodies, and he set about trying to get them to work. Now we have had a few variations, but even from the very first model that we made, it was pretty clear that it was actually going to work. It was a surprise to me, but I thought that one blade would override the other and then I'd just shut down or whatever, or we wouldn't be able to control the pressure, or they wouldn't be steady. But I was wrong on all counts. So that's what I'm doing now. I've had a lot of emails about them. I posted this on the forum about these reeds. I've had a lot of emails, and I'm doing this video to circumvent the email. Now, this is basically the reed, and all it is it's a standard reed, and it's got a blade on each side. This is we call Jara tone simply because it's made of Jara. It's just our reed. Now, the reed itself, nothing special apart from the fact that it's got a blade on each side. Everything else is pretty much the same as what you'd expect to find on a bass drum reed. Now, our standard reed, a standard single-bladed reed, is identical, only one reed. So what I'm going to do is I'll just go through some of the things that we did and explain to them why it sort of works the way it works. Now, I've got a dB meter here. You can't really see it, but I can just see it just so I can give you a bit of a readout on what it's got. Now, this is our standard single blade reed. All these reeds have been set to cut off around about 40-42, which is pretty much average for most pipers. Not many pipers play above that, some do, and you've got those hairy knuckled types that want to split their bags. Well, that'd be more. But what we found is that when we're running drone only with the pipers that we're tutoring, we found that once we did drone only, it was very easy to pick where they were steady, because the drones were very easy to hear on their own without the chanter. they could hear the drones and they could hear when they were steady. And then we just look at the pressure they were playing, where they were steady, and then we set the chanter reeds up to operate at that range. So it's a pretty simple thing. We found that about 10 inches, so if you're 10 inches is that cut-off. So if they're playing pretty standard reed, 28-30 inches, add 10 inches, and that's cut-off pressure for your drone reeds. There's nothing complex about it, it's a pretty simple thing. So this is our standard reed. That's at that pressure, you can hear the tone. And we're running at about 91 dB on the meter at 400 millimeters, 40 centimeters from the thing. This is our double-bladed reed, exactly the same reed, exactly the same drone, and at the same pressure. So we gain about 2 dB on that, 2.5 dB. So the first thing is 2 blades are working. Now how we can tell, and this was one of the, I had a lot of nitwits giving me the drum that 2 blades can't operate, and I've got to admit I didn't believe they would. But when we tape off one blade, a bit of blue tape or a bit of tape, it's very obvious, but I'm not going to go through all that now, but it's not the point of it. I'm just trying to make the point that the 2 blades work, but you can hear the sound difference. The tone on that is quite clean. Well, I'd say very clean. Now, this is an easy reed. This is an inverted bass reed, easy. I like the easy reeds. I think they're a good reed. They're probably the most used, or one of the most used reeds out there. They're not expensive. They're nothing fancy. They've been around for a long time. They work. But this is the inverted one. So once again, putting it in the same thing. That reed's never been played in a set of pipes. It's brand new out of the box. All I've done is just set the pressure on the bridle. And that's what the bridle's for. The bridle is for setting the pressure of the reed. It's not for setting the pitch. We use other things for setting the pitch. So this is a single reed, single blade reed. This is their it's about 84 and a bit dB. And you'll notice it sounds a little bit stuffy, like being played through a sock. But it's steady, as with typical easy drone. It's quite steady at that pressure. The tone is quite steady at that pressure. Now, this is an easy reed. It's exactly the same. It's an easy bass reed, only it's got 2 blades on it. I do these for a few people. A few people have asked for them. I'm not promoting it particularly because I really don't want to muck around with easy reeds, but I've been asked to do it on a few, so I've done a few. Now, this is a double-bladed reed. You've heard that previous reed, and I'll go back and play it again. So this is a double-bladed easy. We're about 2 dB more than the single-bladed. Still less than the Jaratone. That didn't go over 90. It's about about 88 dB. But you can hear clearly the difference in tone, the difference in clarity. Listen again. You get that sound in your head. And then you put in the single-bladed one. So it's a good 2 dB less. And it sounds like it's coming through a sock. It sounds a little bit muffled. So, do the double blades work? Yes, they do. We can prove that they work. You can hear that they work. Why it works exactly, I'm not sure. But as it was explained to me by an audio guy, and I'm not an audio guy, but he says if you clap your hands, one person clapping their hands, say at 100 dB, then you get 2 people clapping their hands together, each one clapping their hands at 100 dB, the sound is larger. And he says it's the same principle. Why you get that bigger sound is not that the dB is that much higher, although the double-bladed is definitely an increase in dB, but it's definitely an increase in the sharpness. Now, that's how it's been explained to me. If there's smart people out there that know something better, I'm quite open to be informed, because I had no idea that it would work. So once again, this is our Jara tone. So we're about 88 dB that distance. Then I put in the double bladed. dB, but you hear it has a fuller sound. The single blade one sounds a little bit edgy. Not bad, but it's a little bit edgy. In contrast to the single bladed easy drone, that sounds quite stuffy, quite muffled. So, to answer all the questions that have been emailed me, I hope this video does that. Do the two blades work? Yes, they do. Do you get an increase in sound? Yes, you do. But it's not that basically that. I know dB is logarithmic, so 2 dB, while it doesn't sound like much, is actually quite a reasonable gain. But the bottom line is, yes, the two blades work simultaneously, which is something I didn't believe would work. Do we get a bigger sound, a fuller sound? Yes, we do. We definitely get a fuller sound using the two blades as a one. Now, once again, with the Jara tone, you get it. But you also heard exactly the same with the easies. The one point that I'll make that we found with a lot of the reeds, we're using a cane principle here. So we've got no headspace, and we're monitoring the length from the reed to the vent hole. Now, if you look at an easy drone, for example, if I put the vent holes together, you can see how short the easy drone is from the vent hole to the end of the reed. That's when I put them next to each other, ours looks a fraction longer, but then when you put them there, theirs is a lot shorter, or ours is a lot longer. When I look at one that's been cut specifically for this bass drone, now this bass drone's a 1970s odd Glanders McLeod. It's a good bass. It's called the large bore bass, so it's similar to a Henderson, very similar to a Henderson, for example. So if I compare that one, you see that it's a much closer fit. Now that's why Easy Drone make a short series reed and a long series reed. The other thing with this is you'll notice that I've machined it down so that I've got a parallel tenon. The idea of that is so I can just keep, like cane, I can just keep sliding it up the bore until I get the pitch that I want. So the airflow is regulated by your bridle. The pitch is by the length. The only other thing with these is we had to wind the screw all the way in to get rid of the headspace, because when we had the headspace on this reed, on the Easy reed, we had a bit of a sound in there that we didn't like. There's a tone in there that when people heard it they didn't like. I couldn't hear it with my degenerative hearing loss. I really can't tell you what I hear these days, but the software tells me that it's actually real. The software tells me there is definitely a difference. Depending on what you like. And once again, tone is so subjective, I'm not going to say good, bad or indifferent on tone. All I'm going to say is that yes, there is a difference. So to those people that emailed me, I hope this explains what we're doing, and I hope it explains how they work, or basically how they work, and hopefully somebody will pick it up. Now when we started this project, I looked around for anybody who was making double bladed reeds, and I really couldn't find anyone. I was quite surprised. Now we can't be the only people doing it. There must be people out there that have done it. I don't know what's happened to them. I don't know whether they couldn't get it to work or whatever. I have to admit that putting the two blades on the reed, it was rather pernickety to get the lengths, vent hole size, and the material strength. There was a lot of things in there mucking around before it sort of came together. It was obvious it was going to work at the beginning, that both blades were going to work, but it took quite a lot of mucking around to try and actually get them to work. So there's a bit of work involved, but I can't see why other mainstream reed manufacturers out there aren't doing it or can't do it. I certainly don't want to be the one making reeds for the market, and God only knows the market doesn't need another drone reed. We've got more than enough. Just got to get them working right and get some people to tell you basically how to set them up or which drones that they are best suited to be running. Anyway, I hope that answers the questions. Thanks for watching.